Make sure you take one. A couple of some data I want to share with you. We have over 1,300 licensed beds, 40 different locations. We have 250 emergency visits, and really is growing day by day. So these numbers from a month and a half ago, I'm sure the numbers have exponentially grown. We are an NCI designated cancer center. What does this mean? Only 4% of hospitals, cancer center, are part of NCI designated. And that puts us as top 4% of all cancer centers. It's truly remarkable, the only academic institution in Orange County being part of NCI. And we're growing, as I mentioned. Just the past 6 months, we've added at least 14 oncologists. All of our oncologists are subspecialty, so from head and neck all the way to GU and GI. Orange County, again, a couple of the things I'd like to share with you. Our clinical trial, early phase trial. We are growing, we are expanding, and want to share with you in Irvine, in mid-December, our new hospital is opening. We are working with NEPOC to have a tour for all the members. If you're interested, please, on the 15th, we'll have a tour of the hospital. The campus is open in Irvine, which is on Jamboree and campus, is open. Josie Wynn and Chow Family Comprehensive Cancer Center, Dr. Bennington being the director. This is an actual live photo that it was taken actually last week. Beautiful campus. Also want to share with you, this is the hospital. You see the hospital parking structure. The Chow Comprehensive Cancer Center and the Joe Wynn is open. Hospital on the back end will be open in a month. On time and on budget. It's unheard of. It's the only green hospital in the US. The only hospital that is fully electric, solar. Someone recently told me it's the only one in the world. I don't know, but definitely in the US, we're the only one. So it's truly wonderful. And again, it's on marchland. They don't build around it. If anything, it's built for the expansion of our hospital. This is an addition to the hospital in Orange. So for South County patients, they can have access to our facility. Also, only level 1 trauma hospital in South OC. We have physicians, Persian, Farsi speaking, Spanish, Chinese, Korean speaking. Really, again, we work very closely with the community. That's why a lot of the community physicians, community patients, we have the roster on the desk, on the table. Please reach out. They have physicians' email address, contacts. If you need particular physicians, please reach out to us, me and my colleague Moral. We'll be more than happy to share that with you. Lastly, we are hiring like crazy, from nurses to physicians and everything in between. So if you're looking, please look. There's thousands and thousands of positions. Thank you. Any question about the hospital, about UCI? In general, I'll be more than happy to answer. Please.
Is this the full service hospital with the surgery and everything else?
That's correct. It's a full service hospital.
TBI surgery?
Everything. And actually, it's a 7-story hospital, 144 bed. 7th floor is only cancer. So it's a state of the art. You will see, hopefully you'll join us on the 15th, we'll show you everything. Actually, I haven't seen it. Morale has seen the hospital. She speaks great stuff. I still haven't had the chance to visit. Without further ado, I want to make an introduction of our first presenter. Apologies, I have to look in my notes because there's just so much information. It's just such an honor to have our presenters. Our first presenter is actually it's a wonderful friend who's a professor of pharmaceutical sciences and ecology and evolutionary biology. She's the recipient of numerous teaching and mentoring awards at UCI, including the Distinguished Professor Award for Teaching, Anthology Yearbook Most Inspiring Health Science Professor, the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences Most Inspirational Professor Award, the Chancellor's Award for Fostering Undergraduate Research, and the Assistant Professor Award for Teaching. She's also a two-time recipient of the Templeton Foundation's Spirituality in Medicine. She's one of my favorite authors. I've read her book several times, and the truth about dietary supplements. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Professor Dr. Mahtab Jafari.
Thank you, Ken, for the introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here and talk to you, and for being here so early. It is weekend, so I'm sure you had other things to do while you were here, so thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to talk about dietary supplements, and I think I have to use this, right? Well, that's okay. I always wanted to be a talk show host, so I pretend I am one today. So I will be talking about dietary supplements for the next half hour, and I will be happy to entertain any questions that you might have. And my talk is going to include different sections, and you will see what those sections are throughout the talk. But I thought it would be interesting to start by telling you a little bit about why I'm standing here and presenting this talk. So I grew up in Iran. For those of us who have had the privilege to live in that beautiful country, we know that the country is filled with gardens, orchards, farms, and I had the privilege of having a grandmother who had a farm and a garden. So farm to table is a novel concept here, but I'm pretty sure you all agree with me that in Iran, back in the day, I don't think that's the case now, but farm to table was very common. And everything when it came to farming was organic and sustainable. So my grandmother really instilled the love of farm to table, working with plants, living a healthy life, and all of the above. Then I moved to US and I did all my training here, and my background was in pharmaceutical sciences, and I was doing mainly drug studies and clinical trials, looking at impact of various drugs on heart disease and cardiovascular diseases and a little bit of neuroscience. But then when I was recruited back to UCI, so I'm not going to go into much details about that, but I came back to UCI in 2005 to develop a new major, pharmaceutical sciences and the department, and I completely shifted my research to aging, because I figured out that all these diseases that I have been working on, cardiovascular, diabetes, you name it, they all fall under the big umbrella of aging. And if we can slow the aging process, we can definitely slow the progression of these diseases. And that took me to start a lab which, with a focus on health and pharmacology. So we screen for compounds, botanicals, pharmaceuticals that would extend lifespan and improve health span. And right now, I predominantly work on plants. And why health span? Because even if the average age in US is about 79 for men and about 82, I believe, for women, our health span, which is the healthy years of our lives, is only 63. So on average, after the age of 63, we start seeing many diseases of aging. This is the algorithm that we developed. So in my lab, I predominantly work with fruit flies and mice. And people wonder, so how are we going to extrapolate the data to humans? Well, we can, because we have many of our disease genes that are conserved. 75% of our disease genes, we have them in fruit flies. So in a sense, we are all a bunch of we could be little fruit flies. So this is the algorithm we developed, and then when it comes to teaching, I completely shifted my teaching from molecular pharmacology, pharmaceutical sciences, to self-care, mental and physical self-care for our undergrad students. So I teach a course at UCI, it's called Life 101, and I teach it to students on all 10 UC campuses because it's online, and the course is also offered on Coursera for free. And then everything else I teach has to do with scientific wellness and health and sciences. And I'm very passionate about community education, so I think that's why I'm here. And I usually talk about dietary supplements and modalities to improve longevity and health span. And the questions that I was getting from my friends, colleagues, students really prompted writing this book that Ken mentioned, The Truth About Dietary Supplements, that is really answering the many, many questions that I've been getting from friends and family and colleagues over the past, I would say, 20-something years. So let's talk about dietary supplements. Dietary supplements is big business. So if you look at this graph, I don't know if I'm blocking my own graph, okay. So in 1994, we only have about 4,000 dietary supplements on the market. And in 2022, we had more than 100,000 supplements. Wow. And if you look at the money and the global market for dietary supplement, in 2024, it was 74 billion. In 2034, it was estimated, back in the day, they estimated that in 2034 is going to be 170 billion. But we are in 2025, and this is a $220 billion market. But when we talk to people, and we ask them questions about dietary supplements. And I have to say that this is an industry that is not regulated. So FDA does not approve the dietary supplements that get on the market. So this survey was conducted among people, and the results were really, I guess, eye-opening. 47% of people agree that most dietary supplements that is available to purchase are declared safe or effective. That's how we understand FDA doesn't approve them, but FDA declares them, which means they're being regulated, and they're not. And 29% of people agree that if a supplement could be dangerous to me, it won't be sold on the market. And we're going to see that this is not true. And then majority of people, almost 90%, 87% said that I'm confident that the supplement that I'm taking is very safe for me. So when it comes to FDA regulations, the regulation is quite limited. All you need to have on a dietary supplement bottle is what we see here. And I usually make it smaller so nobody can read, but I guess it's not that small. But this is pretty much all you need to have, is to say that, well, this has not been evaluated by FDA. And many people are under the assumption that FDA regulates dietary supplements. And they say that both finished dietary supplement products and the ingredients are regulated by the FDA. But there are different guidelines for that, meaning that a dietary supplement company doesn't need to go through any regulation process before putting that dietary supplement on the market. But if that dietary supplement, and only if that supplement caused harm, and there are reports, then FDA would get involved. So it's only after it reaches the market and it has caused harm that FDA gets involved. And now, I used to give this talk, and until a year ago, I used to say FDA is understaffed and this is a problem, but FDA is more understaffed right now. So it is probably going to get worse. So as I said, the talk has different sections. So I'm going to start by talking about dietary supplement safety, and you're supposed to laugh at this, but I don't see anybody smiling or laughing. Yeah, this is actually a patient who took too much fish oil. Yeah. So this study is a little bit old. It was published actually in 2015, but it is still considered relatively new, because what this study reported is that there are a number of emergency department visits due to dietary supplements, 23,000 visits per year. So this was back in 2015. 10 years later, I'm sure these numbers are higher. And as you can see on this slide, the majority of these visits were because of weight loss products. They were because of, I should have the energy, yes, the energy, sexual enhancement. But really, back in the day, it was mainly the weight loss products. And I don't have time to talk about those products, but if you had any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And then we saw more and more studies on the safety of dietary supplements. This one looked at the quality of botanical ingredients in performance enhancing properties. We all have children, and many of us take these supplements to increase our performance, to do a better job when we go to the gym. And this is what they reported, that 57 products contain ingredients that are absolutely not safe, and they are actually banned by FDA. And 89% of the labels did not accurately declare the ingredients that were found in the product. So they look at all these products, and this is what they found out. And again, 5 different FDA prohibited ingredients in these products. Melatonin is very common, right? Many of us use melatonin to fall asleep. So the quantity of melatonin and CBD in melatonin gummies that were sold in US was evaluated in this study. And this study was performed actually by one of my good friends, Dr. Peter Cohen, who is at Harvard. And he looked at melatonin supplements on the market. And he evaluated 25 popular products. And he reported that the quantity of melatonin ranged from 74 to 347%. So the melatonin gummy could have said that there's only 5 milligrams of melatonin in it, but it was 340, could have been over 300% more. And 88% of these products were inaccurately labeled. And I use this study to develop my own study, but I'm looking at the quality of actually a botanical extract, that one of the botanicals that I worked with in my lab. And I had very interesting similar results even for that. We submitted this paper and it should be published very soon. So I'm always very thankful to Pieter for publishing this study so I can copy it and do another study on my own. Then another study looked at 29 herbal supplements. So we may say that, well, once a company is good and it has high quality, then I shouldn't worry about it. So this study was very interesting because they bought 2 or 3 bottles of the same product from a store online with the same batch, meaning that the ingredients should be the same, and this is what they reported. So 29 products, duplicate bottles from the market were purchased for this study. And they wanted to see if, they wanted to determine the consistency and contamination within and in between these bottles. No consistency. So 29 out of 29 when 2 or 3 bottles were tested, and they used 6 different measures, and I'm not going to go into the details, but they were pretty sophisticated tests that they did. And approximately 60% contained fungal isolates. So that is okay if you're healthy. So hopefully you and I, we have a trace of that fungal isolate in the supplement. Most likely it's not going to bother us, right? But if I'm an immunocompromised patient, if I'm going through chemotherapy, if I am managing my cancer, that could be an issue. And what I see in the clinic is our patients who are getting chemotherapy, and then they don't want to tell me what other supplements they take because they think that I'm going to judge them, that why are you doing that? And hopefully that has been resolved because they come to the clinic with bags of supplement for me to verify them. And this is another study that was done by my dear colleague, Dr. Arash Rezazadeh at UCI, and he reported that some supplement use increased risk of cancer. And the studies that I have here, they're all open access online. So if you put the name of the author and a few words from the title, you can find those studies. So this is what Dr. Rezazadeh reported with vitamin A, B6, and other vitamins that they can increase the risk for cancer. We published a study a couple of months ago looking at the impact of dietary supplement safety in older adults. So what we did is we did a comprehensive literature review. We found 822 publications and we evaluated them, and we only included the ones that we thought were of high quality, and we had 122 case reports. And the list of vitamins that we tested and dietary supplements are listed here. And these case reports pretty much reported all a very, very common results, that using too much of them or a supplement that didn't have quality resulted in side effects. Lots of hypercalcemia or hypocalciuria with vitamin D. And then we had thyroid test interference with vitamin B7. So B7 is biotin. Many of us take it for hair growth, and I can tell you how to know if it works and if it may work or may not work, if there was any questions on that. So lots of issues. And why did we even publish this paper? Because we were invited by American Society of Consultant Pharmacists to write this paper. The reason was that as we get older, usually after the age of 65, 70, our liver and kidney functions decrease. So we don't have the same robustness that, let's say, we had when we were in our 20s. So let's talk about the science. So we may think that we have great science on dietary supplements on the market. And the good news is that for some dietary supplements, we do. So there has been a movement by NIH, Office of Dietary Supplement at NIH, and other foundations to fund studies to evaluate the safety and efficacy of those supplements. And the studies that I just presented are among them because they were the safety studies. So when it comes to scientific evidence, the reason I have this slide is this, that we may read something on social media, we may watch a TikTok show that says this is scientifically proven. But we really, as a consumer, because the burden of proof is on us, not on FDA, we have to take a magnifier and we have to look at that study very, very closely. So observational from animal or in vitro studies, that's great, but it may not be applicable to humans. When I get interviewed by media and they said, oh, you reported that cinnamon increased the lifespan of fruit flies, do you think I should start taking cinnamon to increase my lifespan? I say, if you're a fruit fly, absolutely. So we cannot say that because this study was done in a rodent, even in a mouse model, we can't use the same data in humans. And then manufacturers are not required to do clinical trials. So these are not pharmaceuticals. And don't get me started on pharmaceuticals because I can give you a 3-hour talk on the quality of some of the generics of pharmaceuticals we have on the market right now. And and other types of study, observational, some studies are clinical trials, and I can tell you what some of the limitations are. And then review studies, meta-analysis studies, that they say, oh, we looked at 20 studies, 20 high-quality studies that were done using vitamin D, and these are the reports. And we will talk about those a little bit. So I'm just going to show one slide about vitamin D, because vitamin D is very popular, and I'm going to tell you at the end of my presentations how we should use and take vitamin D in a very safe manner. So these observational trials, they look at the impact of vitamin D on cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all-cause mortality, and really not much was there. I would like to add something to this slide and say the reason that these studies were not that positive also could be because of the fact that they didn't measure vitamin D. So imagine you're spending a few $100,000 doing a study looking at the impact of 5,000 units of vitamin D in a patient who is trying to prevent cardiovascular disease and you're not measuring levels. So unfortunately, most of these studies fall into that category. And as I said in the beginning, I'm a big advocate of community education and evidence-based and evidence-informed science. So we have published white papers. I have collaborated with various colleagues in different universities, including Office of Dietary Supplement at NIH, and we have criticized the quality of some of the supplements that were used in some studies and also the research methodology. And this work to be continued because it is still happening. So now we are going to talk about the topic that probably most of you are here for. This is about choosing smart for a healthier you and personalizing your dietary supplements. And this is the commercial break for my presentation because now I'm going to talk about the book. So chapter 7 in this book answers the questions that you see here. And if you don't want to buy the book, don't worry about it because I'm going to present this chapter to you. So as long as you follow the recommendations that I'm going to make in the next few slides, you're fine. You don't need, I know Ken is smiling because he's saying, why are you saying that? So we are going to start with a very basic question. Do I need this supplement? How many of us do that? Please raise your hand if before you take a supplement, you ask, do I need this supplement? Okay, good. How many people, and you don't need to raise your hand for the next question, how many of you take a supplement because your friend, your neighbor is taking it or you read it on, okay, thank you for being so honest, or you saw a social media post. So the questions that we have to ask ourselves are, am I deficient? And how do we know that with a blood test? I'm taking vitamin D. Am I deficient? I'm taking B12. Do I need it? Just a few months ago, I saw a patient in the clinic who was having some neuropathy issues, and the doctor, the physician, started him on a drug that made him sedated and he almost fell. And I asked him some questions, and I felt like he was taking too much B12, especially injection. And I am among friends and family. We know that us Iranians, we love vitamin B12 injections. I mean, I could not convince my own grandmother not to do it. And she said, no, you don't understand. That's what keeps me young and healthy. And I finally gave up. I said, just don't do anything else. Don't take supplements. So this patient, the vitamin B level in him was 3,000, very, very high. And I learned that he was not only injecting himself with B12, but he was also taking oral supplements. So these issues are real. That's why blood test is very important. Am I taking it for a specific disease? Let's say I have a very strong family of coronary artery disease. I had a myocardial infarction. I check my omega-3 levels and they're low. So I'm taking it for a specific disease or to prevent a disease. And I can stand here and give probably a 1-hour lecture on genetic testing to select supplements. These are some fancy tests that we can do to know exactly what supplements we need. But these tests are expensive. They are not widely available. Insurance companies don't pay for it. So we are going to talk about basics. So when we see our physician, we can request a blood test. Vitamin D, B12, and many other vitamins, they can easily be measured in a blood test. Disease-specific blood test. If I am going to start taking supplements, how is my renal function? How is my kidney function? How is my kidney function? How is my liver function? Because if I have issues with my liver and kidney function, maybe that supplement is not really a good idea for me. Functional test, homocysteine is very important when we take B, because if you are trying to prevent a disease, and let's say we are trying to work and reduce inflammation in our bodies, and that's why we are taking the Bs, it's really important to do a homocysteine test. DEXA for bone density. I talk to people who say, I'm taking 4,000 milligrams of calcium and 2,000 units of vitamin D and this much magnesium because I want to have bone health. And I'm just going to give you the, bad news that they probably don't work. And I will be happy to answer questions about how we can improve our bone health. The next question is asking for trustworthy manufacturers. So that's very, very important. The gold standard is to look for a third-party evaluation, meaning that you need to have one of these stamps, NSF or USP. And why? Because companies that go through NSF or USP verification, they spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and these are independent evaluation. It's not the company that gives them a product and say, okay, give me your stamp. USP goes to the market and buys those products randomly and check them. And same thing with NSF. The difference between NSF and USP is that NSF usually evaluates dietary supplements that are used for physical performances and for athletes. The next question is check the company website. And this is very, very important because not every company can afford having an NSF or USP stamp, and that's totally fine. But you need to go on the company website. What is the source of their ingredient? So I do that quite often. When something becomes very popular, I go on the company's website and then I contact them or I send them an email. I say, oh, this is amazing. You're using ginkgo. Where is the source of, where is this from? Where do you purchase your ginkgo? Ashwagandha, great. Where do you get it? Which country? Which farm? Which manufacturer? Which distributor? So honest companies and good companies will share that information with you. And then, of course, there are other ways to look at the trustworthiness of the supplement. So these are this one, the Operation Supplement Safety is one of my favorite websites, opss.org. This group is under the US Department of Defense, or soon to be another name, and they look at the safety of supplements because they want to make sure that the armed force in this country and anywhere else is using the right supplements with highest quality. And finally, the last question is monitoring safety. I love it when people say, I don't take pharmaceuticals, I'm all natural, and I only take dietary supplements because they are safe. And hopefully by now I have convinced you that there are some safety issues, not with every dietary supplement, with some. And I am not going to stand here and say we don't need dietary supplement. Actually, the very first line of that book in capital letters is, I am not against taking dietary supplements, but I'm all for and in support of safe use of supplements. So we have to remember a few facts. If we are taking drugs, other pharmaceuticals, or if you are taking other dietary supplements, they can interact with each other. I have seen a number of patients who have had bleeding, excessive bleeding, because they are on anticoagulants like warfarin or Paxil, and then at the same time they are taking dietary supplements such as the ones that you see here, omega-3s, E, and they can interact and cause more bleeding. So interactions is a real issue. So I'm going to end the talk by giving some practical, probably recommendations, because these are the questions that I often get. And I am not going to spend like 5 minutes because I keep looking at that clock. I think I have
Don't
5
worry
minutes.
about it.
Don't worry about
Don't
it?
worry.
Okay. Wow.
We love your talk.
Okay, I usually am like, okay, because I love to talk, as you can see, so I'm like looking at my watch. So let's talk about some of these vitamins. Many of us take Bs, especially B9 and B12, and we may need it. But what are we supposed to do before we take them? Blood work. We need to have a blood level because these vitamins can cause toxicities. Remember my patient who has vitamin B toxicity and he was having neuropathy, and unfortunately nobody checked his B12 levels. And they gave him gabapentin. Gabapentin made him sedated and he almost fell. And at his age, that fall could have been a tragedy. So it is very, very important to check levels. But many of us may need supplementation. I mean, I'm not going to go into the genetic, some of the genetic abnormalities that we might have, but one is this gene called MHFTR, and that's actually very easy to know if we have. If we are deficient in that, and if we need to take B9, so that's another recommendation that I have. But 25% of Hispanics and 10% of Caucasians and Asians, which is pretty much lots of people, inherited a mutation that can cause folate that can reduce folate activity, and we all need folate. You're
I
one
have
of them?
yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so good thing you did the test. B12. B12 is a vitamin that, as I said, is very, very popular among Iranians, especially the injection, but folate supplementation can mask B12 deficiency, so be aware of that. So now I'm going to spend some time on vitamin D. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands. Actually, I raised my hand. How many of us take vitamin D? So vitamin D is very important. Vitamin D is actually a hormone that we need for a lot of things, from bone health to cardiovascular disease to immune system. So it's really, really needed. But we have to take it in a safe manner. We have to take it in a very responsible way. So we need to monitor our levels. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. Those of us who think that the more is better, so I take 10,000 units a day, the chances are you have vitamin D high levels. I don't want to say toxicity because I don't know, but those high levels can cause other problems. You can end up having calcium in your urine, calcium in your blood, and that elevated levels of calcium can cause calcifications, and it can give you other problems. So it is highly recommended to check it. So now the million-dollar question is, okay, what should that level be? And I wish I could stand here and say we have very good clinical guidelines, very good studies showing what levels we should have. Definitely anything less than 20 is bad. So you know your bodies and you know your numbers better than anybody else. We cannot take enough vitamin D in our diets if we have vitamin D deficiency. I happen to be one of those people. If I don't take vitamin D, my levels drop to like 10 or 12. So some of us have no choice, forget about diet, and that's another story because the only way we can get vitamin D is from dairy, fatty fish, and things like that. So we are not going to talk about that. But 20 is the minimum. And if you combine the results and data from all the studies on vitamin D, the ones who check levels, not too many, and clinical observations, the level should be between 50 to 60. That would assure bone health, prevention of cardiovascular diseases, and other issues. Fish oil is another popular supplement, and many of us just take it because we think it's good for us. But if you are consuming fish, fatty fish, let's say salmon, anchovies, sardines, and if you consume about 16 ounces per week, you're fine. The chances are you don't really need to take fish oil, but many of us don't. So I want to go back to the fact that we need to check for levels. And the best way to check for fish oil deficiency is to check the omega-3 index. And there are many tests right now that you can even buy them from Amazon. They send you the kit, you do a finger stick test, and it tells you what your omega-3 index is. And these index measures the DHA to EPA ratio. So DHA and EPA are two different components of omega-3s. Iron is important because many of us, especially I talk sometimes to my students, and my students who have heavy menstruation cycles, they're all anemic. So I tell them that you need to watch for the formulation because absorption, as we all know, is not really so great with iron formulation. But again, we have to check blood levels because not everybody needs that. And I am going to just spend maybe a couple of minutes on this slide because these are the questions that I get. We have an epidemic of insomnia. A lot of people don't sleep, especially postmenopausal women who cannot take estrogen replacement therapy, suffer from various types of insomnia, and I'm going to let Dr. Deng, my dear colleague, to talk about it. I'm really anxious to hear your talk. I brought a notebook to take notes. And so people think that, okay, melatonin is probably a very safe treatment for insomnia. What melatonin does, it puts you to sleep. So you fall asleep. You take, let's say, 3, 5, 10 milligrams of melatonin. Half an hour later, you fall asleep. But then you wake up. you wake up in 1 or 2 hours because melatonin is not a sleep. It doesn't give you sleep quality. It just puts you to sleep. And another issue is the safety. If you remember from the previous slide, we don't really know how much melatonin we have in those gummies and tablets. So those things is also an issue. I've been getting a lot of questions about creatine, and I have been researching this dietary supplement. I guarantee those of you who have children who work out and they go to the gym every day, and they want to build muscles, they want to, like my son said, I want to shred. I'm like, okay, great. They take creatine. Another question is this safe? So it is safe. It is one of the dietary supplements that is safe. But my recommendation is to take this formulation, creatine monohydrate, because we used to that. I don't think we have the phosphate formulation on the market anymore. This is what I recommend, and I also recommend taking that a creatine supplement that only has one ingredient, and that's creatine, not a combination. And there are studies asking, okay, is this going to help with cognitive function? So there are some promising studies, but I don't think the jury is still out. With athletic performance, I used to be a skeptic. If I had given this talk, let's say last year, I would say, I don't know. But now we have some good studies. And the last question, the last point about creatine is its use in postmenopausal women. It's actually quite safe. And there are some studies suggesting that if you go to the gym, I mean, you can't just sit around the house or just go for walks and say, oh, I'm taking creatine to build muscles. It's just not going to work. But if you're exercising, it could be helpful. At least based on the data we have right now. I may be giving this talk next year and I'm saying, oh my God, now we have so many safety issues with this supplement. The only caveat is kidney function, because creatine goes through kidney for elimination, so you want to make sure that you have a good kidney function. And of course, I can't give a talk about dietary supplements without talking about multivitamins. So my question to people is, how is your diet? Because for the most part, we Iranians, we have a very good diet. We eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. My husband is not Iranian, and then when after a big meal I have a full plate of cut fruits, he said, but I'm full, I can't have any more food. And I said, this is not food, this is fruits, just eat it. So for us, our diets are usually pretty good. We eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and fresh products. So for the most part, we may not even need a multivitamin. So this is from the website that I shared with you, opss.org. And this really, if you can answer these questions, you have a very decent and good idea about your dietary supplement. How safe is your dietary supplement? So what I'm going to ask you to do, so now you see I'm a teacher, I can't give a talk without giving assignments and homework. So I want you to go home. I want you to take your dietary supplements, put them on a table, get this table, and answer these questions. And then you add up the numbers that, so add up the ones. 4 or more is okay, less than 4 is a no-go. So if you have a dietary supplement and you answer these questions and you add up the number and it's less than 4, please put that dietary supplement away. That means that that supplement is not really safe for you. The only thing that I would like to add here is, I think they do have, yes, the third line is proprietary. I am completely against these proprietary blends. When we buy herbal supplements, often in the back, you see this term proprietary blend, secret blend. This is the trademark of the company. Stay away from them because number one, we don't know what the source of those ingredients are. And number two, we don't know what is interacting with what. And number three, we don't know the dose because they don't report the dose. The proprietary blend can have ginkgo, but it could be too much of it. And then you start having various types of bleedings because you're also taking anticoagulants. So I'm not a big fan of that. And these are some of the references that I use, but I talk about them throughout the talk. I'll be happy to maybe make a handout and share this with you, the selected references, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I talk more than 5 minutes.
This was by far one of the best lectures or, conferences we had. I learned so much.
Absolutely.
Absolutely one of the best. And just so you know, we send newsletters for every month, all the events that happens at the park or wherever we have the events. And we're gonna have this slideshow in the newsletter. So if you missed anything or if you wanted, you missed taking pictures of it, don't worry about it, go ahead. Amazing.
Thank you.
And one of those things that she mentioned, the B12, my mom was one of the ones that we went to the doctor and they said, your B12 is off the roof because she was taking the oral.
Maybe that's why you're so hyper.
Maybe I'm not into it.
Last question.
Yes. First of all,
Thank you very much. What is the difference between vitamin D and D3 that they say for immune system get better? This is one of the questions.
Yes.
The second one is creatine. Is it okay to mix with protein powder? Is that suggested or not? And is UCI have a program normally for public to know more about what's going on beside this?
Okay, thank you. So I answer the easiest question first. Yes, you can put creatine in your protein powder. And I'm going to add another point to this question is that if I do a survey right now in this room and I ask you to answer some questions, I guarantee you that 90% of us are protein deficient. We just don't take enough protein. And it's a challenge. I don't take enough protein. So if we are protein deficient, and of course the best source of protein is food, is whole food, is eggs, is fish, that's the best source. But if we cannot have enough protein, then a good clean protein powder is actually not a bad idea, and you can add the creatine to it. The question about D and D3 is pretty much, when you buy a dietary supplement and it says it's vitamin D, that means that you're fine. So you don't have to look into the fine lines that what is the D3. It's just like different formulations. But the most important issue with vitamin D is the testing. Because when you test, you take this level that is called 25 hydroxy vitamin D. And then a lot of people are saying that, well, that is not a very accurate measurement because it's not the active D. For the most part, if you have a good kidney function, that's okay. Because some people say, oh, you have to check 125 hydroxy vitamin D, but they correlate with each other. So I wouldn't worry about the name unless you have such a sophisticated blood measurement that is telling you exactly where you are deficient. So I wouldn't worry about that. And I forgot that, I know you say something. So Dr. Deng and I have been talking to develop such a program, so hopefully we will have, because what I do right now, I do consults. So physicians at our cancer center, when they are dealing with really complicated patients who are on lots of vitamins and medications, they contact me and I go see them. But Dr. Deng and I have been talking about developing a program for that. So you see, now they have to do it because I announced it publicly.
so thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you. That was such a nice seminar. For the information, what kind of a dietary supplement or the food you recommend? This is so important for all of us, I think.
So I'm going to invite all of you to come to my lecture in one of my classes next week. It's the self-care course for Doctor of Pharmacy students and also the Health and Sciences course. I spent 2 hours talking about sugar. So if you want to have an anti-inflammatory diet, stay away from sugar. And sugar is everywhere. I'm not going to say zero sugar because it's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. So my recommendation is to start with sugar and also increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables. So I say that, but I'm not going to tell you that when it comes to fruits, just eat mango and grapes because they are high in sugar, they have very high glycemic index. So go for berries, go for fruits and vegetables that are very low glycemic index. And as far as the dietary supplement goes, again, it goes back to the test. So if you have a serious inflammation issue, which is shown by markers, like they have measured your inflammatory markers, interleukins, C-reactive protein, homocysteine, then you may benefit from doing a comprehensive test and take Bs, vitamin B12 or B6. But as far as having a diet that is high in sugar and then taking something to negate that, there is no such a thing. Unfortunately, it's hard work. It's hard work. But if I have one recommendation, is to decrease the sugar intake.
Where is the class and when it?
Oh, I would send the information to Wolfgang.
My question is a little bit off the direct subject of your talk, but when I go shopping, I'm constantly faced with choice between organic and non-organic food. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a good commercial for my book. I talk about that in the book. My recommendation is that if you can, go for organic. If you can. I say that, but I was in Whole Food the other day and they said organic, I don't remember, organic grapes. So I asked one of the people who worked there, where is this grapes from? Because you say it's organic. He said, I don't know. So I said, I want to talk to the manager. So they finally figured out that I'm not going to leave. I'm just going to stay there until I talk to them because they were ignoring me. So finally the manager came and he said that these grapes are actually from Mexico. I said, from where? From which farm? Because you can have an organic farm here and a non-organic farm here. They share the soil. So when I'm watering in this non-organic farm, it's going to go here. I am a little bit, maybe I'm on the extreme because I buy organic fruits and vegetables from the farmers market. And over the years, I have developed sort of a friendship with these farmers so I can trust them. But if I had a choice, I would definitely go with organic. But then, having said that, not everything needs to be organic, right? Like bananas, I usually don't buy organic bananas or organic oranges. But I like to think that if we buy more organic, we're going to push the market towards that. With my students, it's a different story because I have students who can barely afford, buying fruits and vegetables. They are on a budget. So I say that just eat fruits and vegetables. It really doesn't matter. And we used to think that all the soils are depleted. It depends on the agricultural method and it depends on the farm. And that's why I go a step further to know what does that mean that these grapes are organic.
Is there any negative for that?
Negative to organic is that they may be using fertilizers that are organic but that are not that safe. Like human feces is organic, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends. It really depends on the agricultural method. And I forgot the name of this website. Maybe Dr. Dane can help me. It's called Top 7 Safe, like the clean. So there is a website that you can use and it tells you what are the clean products for those ones. Even fish, red meat, fruits and vegetables. I'm gonna remember the name and share that with you. It's just a website.
It's not the consumer report.
It's not consumer report, although consumer report is very good. It's very, very good. Very evidence-based.
Thank you, Mrs. Dr. Mahtab. It was so amazing speech, and to be honest with you, we get a lot of knowledge and information. Then my question is that because maybe I'm listening on your speech, is all vitamin like the B9, D, or fish, all of them. The most of the Iranian doctors, especially on social media in Iran, they say that take a different time. But actually, I asked my doctor, they said that it doesn't matter, you can take a vitamin D at any time. But most of the doctors, they say that especially on the vitamin D, they say that it is between the day, not in the morning, take it.
That is just my question. How is your idea and the best and which one is best?
So thank you for your question. So my quick answer is that it really doesn't matter. And Dr. Dan, please correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to dietary supplements and we are deficient, we need to take them. Having said that, some dietary supplements have stimulatory properties, so you don't want to take them at 2 or 3 in the afternoon because you're going to stay up.
So it depends on what kind. Vitamin D is lipid soluble, so you can take 100 dose a week to absorb the fat and slowly reduce. Some supplements like vitamin C have very short half-life, which is water free, so you have to take a little bit all the time. So it depends on the specific supplement.
And also with calcium.
It doesn't matter,
No.
because your body is soak it in and store it in fat and store it in.
You can take vitamin D, as Dr. Deng said, once a week. So for those of us who are not very good at remembering, instead of taking 1,000 units every day, because 1 to 2,000 is the recommended dose, you just take like 10,000 or 7,000 once a week. It's fat soluble, it's just not a stepping on. Fat stops forever. But for instance, if you're calcium deficient, you don't want to take only calcium at once because you're not going to absorb it. So the recommendation is to divide it up into like at least 2 or 3 doses.
Thanks very much for a great presentation, like what Dr. said, one of the best and practical. The question is, vitamin D, like in Delta, is consuming from the sun enough or not?
This is a very, very good question. Thank you for asking it. So we do not have, and this is, I'm on a mission to find out how many minutes of exposure to sun is going to be sufficient for vitamin D production. Because we produce vitamin D in our skins, right? So if we have enough sun exposure, the chances are you're not vitamin D deficient. But no studies have reported that you need to have 20 minutes of vitamin D exposure on bare skin in order to take care of your vitamin D levels. Having said that, the consumption should be adjusted. For instance, if I am very active and in the outdoors during the summer and I'm constantly on the beach or running and jogging outside, I may not need 10,000 units of vitamin D every week during the summer. So I have to kind of adjust the dose. But in winter time, of course in California we are so spoiled. I don't know why I'm even saying this, but in some regions, then during winter time you're indoors most of the time, then you may need more vitamin D. But the recommendation is to be exposed to sun, and it's for other reasons. It's not just vitamin D, 20 to 30 minutes a day. And now with the high use of sunscreens, we put sunscreens everywhere, it's almost like impossible to get, to produce any vitamin D with sun.
Thank you so much. Very important information. So when it comes to D, do we need to think D with K or it's another confusing?
Thank you for, I was hoping nobody asked that question. But so the question is, should we take K or D with K? And the quick answer is no. But if you have any GI issues, if you have any absorption issues, K usually helps to absorb, D better. And K is also something that you need for bone health. But I think now we are becoming obsessed with vitamin K. Everybody wants to take K, and for the most part, we don't need it.
Dr. Jafari, thank you so much. That was really excellent and very well laid out on supplements. On omega-3s, I was talking to somebody who makes omega-3s at a company called Beirut. They said, the ones in capsules are kind of older, and maybe don't even take those, either just eat the fish, as you said, like 16 ounces. And this is a supplement maker, not contract manufacturer. Would you recommend that or eating the actual fish? Obviously, you do recommend that, but what about the ones that come more fresh omega-3s like in a bottle? Do they have any improvement over in that type of context? Thank you.
Very, very good question. Thank you for asking it. I have the tendency to say that check the company. If you are buying your omega-3 from a reputable brand, a good company, good reputation, you go on the website, then it really doesn't matter because the capsules is going to be disintegrated in your GI. Same thing with the solution. So I think the company is important. But I'm not going to say that if you're eating enough fish, you don't need to supplement with omega-3 because sometimes we're just deficient. And that's why it's really important to do these tests. One of the tests that, this is a question I got last week that somebody asked me, what tests do you recommend? There are many of them on the market, but one of them was actually developed by a professor, not at UCI, I don't remember the name of the university, who had been studying omega-3 for like 30 years. And that's the Omega Quest, I believe. And you can get the, so I recommend that yes, go for the company that has reputation and is a good brand, but also make sure to check your omega index because you don't want to overdose. And for the most part, if you eat enough fatty fish, we really don't need to supplement.
Is Costco brand a good brand?
So,
Oh, I said the label USP can be
yeah.
a little bit better.
So it's funny you asked this question because I got this question from one of my students yesterday, and I used to say that, oh no, I don't know about anything at Costco, but I did a little bit of research and I found out that Costco really they do their due diligence before they putting those products on their shelves. I'm not going to make a blank statement. I'm not going to say every single product is great, but the fish oil that they have is actually really good. So that's all I'm going to say. And I also learned that Costco doesn't bring like 5 or 6 different brands when they put things on the shelf. It's usually like 1 or 2.
It's on sale now.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Dr. Jafari. Great presentation. 2 questions. How often you do the blood work and for how long? And also the second question, melatonin over ages, children, adolescents, and then geriatric. Any idea what doses are?
So I'm going to answer the first question first. So the blood test, it depends. With omega-3, if you do the test, you really need to wait 3 to 6 months because you're not going to see any difference. When I used to run the cholesterol clinic at UCI, I used to have patients who would come in like once a month. These were the cyclists and athletes who wanted to check like everything. And I'm like, there's no difference between this month and last month. For the most part, like with vitamin D and B12, I would say minimum of 6 weeks. But for the most part, we don't really need to check that often. I would say if you are relatively healthy and there are no issues, once a year is sufficient. But if, like my patient, you had a vitamin B12 of 3,000, then I wanted to see him in 3 months and 6 months to make sure that it's dropping. And luckily it did. Your other question? Melatonin. So melatonin, the dosing is a big issue. Some people only respond to 1 milligram, and you give them more than that, and actually they get sedated and nothing happens. So experiment with the dose. I usually recommend start with 3 milligram and see what happens. And some people need as much as 20 milligrams. So I'm talking about 3 to 20 milligrams, but I just showed you a study where the gummies, we didn't really know how much. And as far as the generational use, definitely not recommended for children because we don't know how much is in that gummy or supplement. But it again really depends. Depends on you because melatonin is a hormone. We all have it. Some of us are deficient. Some of us need more. Some of us need less. So it really depends.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Sorry, as we're sitting here, I'm checking all of the supplements that I pay tons of money. So most of them, there is no verified third-party trademark on them. It means they're not good.
No. Okay, so I'm so glad you asked that question. So one of our friends is thinking about all the supplements she's taking and they're not verified. So having the USP NSF or one of those stamps is important. Or you can go on consumerlabs.com and see if they have evaluated that supplement. But again, you can start with the website of the company, and learn. I mean, I'm one of those people who send questions. You know, they have that contact information that nobody uses. I'm sure these companies have a picture of me somewhere. Stay away from her. But I keep sending emails and I keep calling. So you can do that. You can find the name of the company on the bottle and just contact them.
But just one thing, I usually take a picture of the ingredients, I give it to ChatGPT and tell me which one it is.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
if it will.
As long as you prompted, well, yes,
Yeah.
you need to put the prompt of summary of this lecture, then they
Yeah,
can find it.
So I am actually teaching my students in the 3 courses that I'm teaching. This is a very heavy teaching load for me this quarter, but I'm fine. I love to teach. So when they say 3 courses, I'm like, seriously, I'm doing it. I'm teaching my students how to use artificial intelligence because with chat, especially ChatGPT, it can hallucinate. It can give you wrong information. So as you heard, it depends on your prompt. And sometimes I get into arguments. And actually, I'm getting into arguments with companies, with ChatGPT. This is really not a good sign. I need to work on my emotional health. But what I do with ChatGPT is that I just keep prompting and prompting. Look, I asked a question about one of the supplements, and Chat said that yes, this is great scientific studies. I said, give me the link to these studies, and it did. So then I said, but this study, the methodology was really poor. And they said, oh yeah, you're right, it was very poor. So why did you give it to me if it's poor? AI is not at the stage of human cognition yet. And this is what I'm trying to teach my students in these classes, that use it with a grain of salt.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jafari. Many have asked about the book. I did purchase mine from Amazon, so I urge you to look into it. Would you like a few minute break before we start the next?
That's a good idea.
Okay, let's just do it.
So it is on Amazon.
Yes.
It is an Amazon.
And
We can
That's
share
right.
can you just keep it up so people can
Oh, sure, sure.
put it up?
I will also post it on LinkedIn as well.
It
You
depends
should have
on your
brought
prime.
something. She should have brought.
So, couple of minutes break.
All right, thank you.